Welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down a royal response that was brief, cautious, and instantly controversial, not because of what it said, but because of what it carefully avoided saying. This is not a routine palace moment, and it deserves closer attention. For the first time since the latest wave of Epstein-related document releases in the United States, the Prince and Princess of Wales have issued a public statement. It was just 2 sentences long, released through a Kensington Palace spokesperson, confirming that William and Catherine were deeply concerned by the continuing revelations and that their thoughts remained focused on the victims. That's it. No names mentioned, no direct reference to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, no explanation, no context. And yet, despite its brevity, the statement immediately triggered widespread reaction. Historically, senior working royals have avoided speaking publicly about scandals involving family members. Silence has long been the preferred strategy, designed to limit exposure, avoid legal risk, and prevent further escalation. So the obvious question is, why speak now? The timing provides a strong clue. The statement was released just as Prince William prepared to embark on a diplomatically sensitive trip to Saudi Arabia, a visit meant to highlight Britain's global relationships and his growing role on the international stage. Instead, headlines were once again dominated by renewed scrutiny surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's past association with Jeffrey Epstein. When a royal visit risks being overshadowed by scandal, the palace tends to act quickly. Optics matter, particularly for the heir to the throne, whose credibility abroad is tied to the institution's perceived stability at home. In that sense, the statement reads as reputational positioning rather than moral reckoning. By expressing concern and centering victims, William and Catherine aligned themselves emotionally without engaging in any detail. It was careful, legally safe language. They did not defend Andrew. They did not condemn him. They did not explain what the institution knew or when. They simply created distance. That distance, however, is exactly what many people find troubling. The fallout surrounding Andrew has not faded with time. It has intensified. Newly released U.S. documents have reignited scrutiny, raising further questions about continued contact with Epstein after his 2008 conviction for a child sex offense. Andrew has acknowledged poor judgment in maintaining that relationship and has consistently denied wrongdoing, reaching an out-of-court settlement in 2022 with Virginia Giuffre without admission of liability. But for the public, legal closure has not translated into moral clarity. The royal family has spent years attempting to manage this by slowly pushing Andrew out of public life. He stepped back from royal duties in 2019, lost titles and patronages, stopped using HRH officially, and has been largely absent from public events. More recently, reports indicate he left Royal Lodge earlier than expected to relocate to the King's Sandringham estate. Each move signals containment, yet none have ended public scrutiny. In fact, the pressure has spilled into public engagements themselves. King Charles was recently heckled during a visit, directly questioned about what he knew regarding Andrew and Epstein. That moment mattered because it showed this issue is no longer confined to news reports or online debate. It follows the monarchy into real-world interactions. This is the environment William is inheriting, a media landscape where documents resurface instantly, statements are dissected word by word, and silence is interpreted as strategy rather than neutrality. In that context, this first statement from William and Catherine mattered enormously, and instead of closing the conversation, it opened a new phase of questioning about responsibility, timing, and whether concern alone is enough. The reaction to that statement explains why the questions haven't gone away. For many observers, the language felt insufficient, even evasive, and that criticism did not come only from traditional monarchy skeptics. It also came from figures who usually defend royal restraint, which is what makes this moment unusual. Piers Morgan, a vocal critic of Harry and Meghan and often a defender of the institution itself, publicly mocked the phrasing, openly questioning whether being deeply concerned was remotely adequate given the seriousness of the situation. That response landed hard precisely because it broke pattern. Morgan's argument was blunt. A vague, PR-style statement from a palace spokesperson does not satisfy public scrutiny when the issue involves long-standing allegations, institutional protection, and unanswered questions. In his view, and in the view of many others, the Andrew Epstein connection is the central issue, and continuing to sidestep it only deepens the damage. This is where the irony becomes impossible to ignore. The same voices that routinely accuse the Sussexes of harming the monarchy by speaking too openly are now demanding transparency from the institution when it suits them. That contradiction has not gone unnoticed by the public. It highlights a deeper problem. The monarchy appears trapped between silence and speech, unable to find a form of accountability that feels genuine rather than performative. The core issue here is not tone, but responsibility. Expressing concern costs nothing. It does not explain how someone with royal status was able to maintain damaging associations for so long. It does not address why warnings were ignored or why access continued after convictions. It does not acknowledge institutional failure. For many people, centering victims in language while avoiding structural accountability feels hollow. The Epstein scandal did not thrive in isolation. It flourished in elite spaces where power, influence, and silence intersected. When royal proximity to that world is revealed, the damage becomes institutional, not personal. Critics argue that the monarchy's actions have consistently been reactive rather than principled. Andrew's removal from duties came after intense public backlash, not proactive leadership. Titles were stripped late, statements were delayed. Each step appeared driven by pressure rather than moral clarity. That pattern matters because it shapes public trust. Trust is not rebuilt through carefully neutral wording. It is rebuilt through openness, consistency, and accountability, even when that accountability is deeply uncomfortable. The monarchy often speaks about service, duty, and moral example, but those values ring hollow if accountability stops at the palace gates. Legal constraints are real, but so is the public's ability to recognize evasion. When institutions hide behind ambiguity, suspicion grows. This is why Morgan's reaction resonated. It suggested that frustration has crossed ideological lines. When even defenders begin echoing critics, it signals a deeper credibility problem. This is no longer just about one individual or one scandal. It is about whether the monarchy can confront its own failures honestly, or whether it will continue to rely on distance, time, and carefully chosen words to ride out controversy. William and Catherine's statement was meant to signal awareness and empathy, but for many, it highlighted the gap between concern and consequence. In a modern media environment, symbolic gestures are no longer enough. People want clarity. They want responsibility. They want to know that power does not place anyone above scrutiny. Until the institution addresses those demands directly, every cautious statement will raise more questions than answers. And that is the risk the monarchy now faces. Not that it spoke, but that what it said still feels like avoidance in a moment that demands accountability.